Guys, this is Sergeant Phoenix back in the action, and today we are on, finally in my opinion, how to link summon in the new link format of Yu-Gi-Oh! And this is where the new gameplay goes in. So they have made a few changes to the board itself. So where we have our 5 monster zones here are actually called our main monster zones now, because now each player possesses an extra monster zone. So I would have that one, and my opponent would have that one. And also I was gonna forget to say, our spell and trap zones have changed as well. Well, normally you can still have 5 spell and traps on the field. 2 of them, so the end bit here and the end bit there, can become pendulum zones as well now. So you could only play 3 face downs. But if one of your pendulums got destroyed, like this one, you'd have 4. So if your pendulums are gone, you can just use them again. So the ends are used for both pendulum zones and spell and trap card zones, which will show on the top here. Pendulum zones and the bottom showing spell and trap zones. And this is where Link, if you're playing the Link format, if you only use a certain number of extra deck monsters, Links can be important for some decks. The reason being, these main zones, you can no longer use monsters from the extra deck. So let's say, you couldn't use your Synchros, your Fusions, or your Xyz anymore. They would be off. And the reason being is what I'm going to explain in a minute. But you would be allowed to use your Rituals and your Pendulums. Those are the only 2 you'd be allowed to use until the main piece of using these would come in. So these 3 would be out the way. But if you did want to use one of them, because you can only use one of them in this certain format. So let's say I had a level 5 monster and a level 3 Dark Tuner, I could summon that. That would have to go in the new extra monster zone. So you might be thinking, I can only use one now, what's the point? That's where the new Link format comes into fruition. And this is why. These are the new Links. I only use 2 because I don't really use them that much, and then, to be fair, I only use 1 extra monster at a time unless I'm doing a massive strategy. But it is up to you if you want to play a Link format or Pendulum format. You can discuss it with your opponent if they're still getting used to Links. You could play a Link format to practice with, if you've got a few Links. Or you can play a Pendulum format where these would be out the way and you'd have your Pendulum zones. So the reason why these are the new Links are important is because of the arrows, as you can see. The ones that show red actually help you summon more monsters. So let's say, because the reason being they need to be summoned specifically. This one says, and you'll know there's no defense. That is the key. No matter what, you cannot play, or your opponent cannot use any effects or conditions whatsoever in defense mode. That is the main rule. Links cannot go in defense no matter what. But you'll see there's a Link number here. Hold on. There. Link 2. And that's equal to the number of arrows. The reason being it has Link 2 is because that's the number of monsters you need to link it with. It's almost like tributing. So let's say I had these 2 on the field. And they were both Fiends. But let's say they weren't, I could summon this one easier. Because this is, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to. Because it's a Link 3, so I would need 3 monsters. So, if these 2 were Fiend types, like this one's a Fiend, but that's a Spellcaster, so let's say they were Fiends. I could tribute them to play the Link there. And the arrows are the important thing because they point to where your zones are. Some will point to your opponent's zones, and that means your opponent cannot use those zones for certain reasons. But if you want to link, so meaning I can now summon more monsters from the extra deck with them. And you actually, and sometimes, depending on the link, they will gain certain effects from those monsters. And you can actually use links with other monsters as well. So let's say these two monsters' effects were negated, and I wanted to summon this one just to help me out. Because that's a 2, and this counts as a 1, I can use it for a 3. So I can choose that. But I'd have to move. But I would have to move. But you have to make sure your monster's linked to it. So moving them with your links is the most important thing. If you don't have a link, you can only use one. That is the main rule. You could use your monster, if your monster, let's say here was in the extra deck zone and you had this one here, you could still do that, and if you want, it's up to you. There are a lot of strategies though. Links, for some people, can be difficult. I'm still getting used to it, but it is a decent way to make it simpler and try and show a more complex strategy. But that's just my opinion. A lot of people don't like the format, and the ones who do use links, I know a few people who don't like them, but they still use links for certain reasons. But they do say it's quite decent. A few people, like I said, a few people don't like it, a few people do. They have ups and downs about it. I'm like one of them. It's got its ups, it's got its downs. But it is quite decent. And to be fair though, I think it's good. You have to think more, you've got to re-strategize everything. And they have got literally thousands thanks to the new Vrains. Which, I've not seen as much as I've only seen like a handful. But it does look good, the Vrains. The way they play the format. But having these two on the field, so let's say I had that. I have to play it there or there, and I play it here. And the arrows come in handy, because like I've said, I don't know if I mentioned it more, but these let you summon monsters from the X deck. So these two, I could summon these two. And these will give you, like I said, if they point to them, they give them certain effects. So let's say these two, they'll give each other effects. Some, like say I have all 4 of these on the field. They'll have all their effects because they point to each other, and that one but that one only points to that one. I could move it there or there. It's wherever you want to put it. So I could put it there and leave an extra zone there, but depending on what it is, because these will gain certain effects equal to the number they co-link to, which means if an arrow points to that one, it gains 1 effect, and if that arrow points. And since these two point to that, it's co-linked twice. So, you have to be careful. You have to choose your balance of what links you're using. For Revolver, he uses a rocket deck, and his rocket links are actually really good. They work together, and they can bring back each other using links. And they use the links to build up their attack. But I think what surprises people the most about Revolver is that he uses the everyday trap cards like Mirror Force, Magic Cylinder. He's even used Imperial Order now. And I won't mention what episode that is. But, it just to me it makes me laugh a little bit. But, like I'm saying, if I want to summon 100 Eyes Dragon, I've got the chance now. They are working on some link spells though, and I think that would help a lot of duelists out. For those who don't want to use link monsters, maybe they could make some where you don't need the links, but you could use link spells. That point to either 2 or 1 or 3, depending on it. But you'd have to get rid of spell and traps or cards on your field. So I think it could help some rookie duelists out. But, it is a decent way of doing it. But it does have... But again, you can choose... if your opponent's still not used to links, you can choose whether they want to or not. If you want to play a Pendulum or Link format. So Pendulum format's the usual. You can use all, like I've said. I do play the Link format though. Even though I still use them. In my opinion, I don't really care because it just helps. It just challenges me more. Hold on. Sorry, I was just having a drink of water then. But it helps you strategize more. Even if you don't have links in your extra deck, it could make you think of entire new strategies. But if your opponent's got links, they have a massive advantage again. They could have a massive advantage, and you'd have to be lucky to beat them. So comment down below, like and subscribe, and like I said, comment down below on what you think about link summoning. Do you like it? Do you hate it? If you do like it, what do you like about it? If you hate it, is it because it's too difficult or because they make it too complicated? Just comment on your opinion. So until then, this is Sergeant Phoenix, over and out.